this session, we're going to be talking about protection, and we're looking at Matthew chapter 1, verse 19, where it says the following: Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly.
Now, even when we think it's justified, it's never okay to publicly embarrass or humiliate our mates or spouses. At first, Joseph didn't know or fully understand that God was responsible for Mary's conception. Joseph had the full right to be angry and expose Mary for what seemed to be adultery at the time.
That's right. You know, the law commanded if a person was caught in adultery that they would be stoned to death. And Mary was betrothed to Joseph when she became pregnant by the Holy Spirit, which would have been considered adultery in biblical times in Judea. Now, Joseph was said to be faithful to the law, which means he held in high regard obedience to God. But what was more important to God was Joseph's understanding of grace and God's heart.
That's right. It was no mistake that God chose Mary, of course. And it even could be said that Joseph was also selected for the special assignment to be Jesus' father on earth. See, both men and women can learn a lot from Joseph's response here. Even when confused in what seemed to be a great betrayal, he protected Mary from humiliation and harm.
And Joseph didn't use the commandments of God to do harm, yet he acted in the spirit and love and concern for Mary's well-being, even in such a challenging situation as an immaculate conception.
That's right. Now, here's what it says also in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Now, this is an extremely important verse here as it goes on to talk about how men should really be considerate and respectful to their wives. And I think it can also be said that we should be protecting our wives as the weaker partner. And we need to do that even when it's not deserving, because that's when it's an act of righteousness and love, just like Jesus and the Holy Spirit. He's always there to protect us and to lift us up and encourage us, especially when we don't deserve it, is when it's needed.
Thank you for joining Les and Tracy King for A Word on the Word. Visit awordontheword.tv to receive their latest audio or video broadcast. A Word on the Word is sponsored by First Century Ministry